at your LinkedIn, you mentioned your work at Eazy-Digi, where you've been studying the educational trends. You read a lot. So you have identified 5 key trends. Could you share those trends with us? And how does that inform, I guess, your vision as we talk about the use of data?
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Ayo. In one of my posts, I talked about 5 key trends that will characterize K-12 education in Africa by 2030. And of course, I always say that the future is not vague. When we look at the future, for example, if I am in year two today, right, in the next 4 years, I should be in year six, right? That's by design,
Yes.
right? So all things being equal, I should be in year six by, okay, so for the sake of eventualities and the likes, let me put 2, 3 or 4 years ahead, right? So if I'm in year two today, so I would say that in the next 4 to 8 years, I should be done, or I should be done with anything called year six. So look at that kind of simple analysis, right? So the future is not totally vague, right? If we do backcasting, and backcasting is just basically about studying how things have evolved in the previous years. For example, I checked how 3G, 4G, and 5G came to Nigeria. And then I discovered from my research that the gap between their adoption was 6 to 8 years.
Wow.
That's 3G, 4G, and 5G in Nigeria, right? So the gap was just between 6 to 8 years. Now, that suggests something to me. Of course, if I look at the impact of that on the digital economy in Nigeria and the predictions around the digital economy in Nigeria, sorry, I'm digressing a little bit.
No, I love the analogies. That's great.
Yeah, that says something, because I am always thinking about the future and what needs to be done today in K-12, so that we're raising kids that can thrive when they get to the future. Kids that are not going to be confused. Kids that can be so much empowered and even think beyond themselves to adding value to the society.
Yeah.
So when I think about that, for example, I'm talking about 3G, 4G, 5G, and how we came to Nigeria. That backcasting gives an insight. All right. So based on that, I can say that if 5G came to Nigeria this year, then most likely in the next 6 to 8 years, we're going to have another version.
Absolutely.
Maybe 6G or something else, or maybe not 6G. But that pattern shows that there's a likelihood that around that period, something is going to happen. So when we as futurists, when we see some things and like that, I don't think it's spiritual actually. I just think that it's just studying the way things are evolving.
Absolutely.
Which anybody can actually do if you're passionate about it and understand that this is what might happen at this period. Because of what we have seen that has happened in this particular period in the past. So 5 key things I put here. I said, number one, I said learning will no longer be tied to a place called school, but an experience that promotes lifelong learning. As learners, we now be able to learn anywhere and anytime. So there will be nothing like homework or classwork, but assessments to provide feedback and ensure mastery. Now, the question is this happening right now? This is happening even right now. I forgot to mention something. So when we look at the future, there are 3 P's. There is the possible, there's the preferable, and there's the predictable.
Okay.
So there are things that when we look at the future, we can say that this is possible at this time.
Yeah.
But there are things that we can say that this one is still in the predictable realm, right? So it's still in the predictable realm. We can have 5 years or some 6, 7 years to wait. It looks like it might happen this period. There's something is shaking about it. But some factors are trying to say that it might or it might not. It's quite predictable. And why some things may not just be preferable. So right now, there's a flying car. A flying car was just launched, I think, last week thereabouts. And so the question is, in Nigeria, are we going to have a flying car by 2030? The issue is that's not possible, and it's not even preferable. Because right now, we're just trying to bring in electric cars into Nigeria. We have some electric cars in Nigeria right now. They're just trying to get on our road. And for infrastructure and many reasons, we can't use flying cars in Nigeria by 2030. That's going to be a big problem. So this particular thing is something that is happening even right now. So we see, for example, the school I talked about earlier, Pearls Garden School, they are now hybrid. I'm an hybrid learning consultant. They are now hybrid in the sense that there are days that some kids don't come to the physical school. They just learn from home. They just learn from home because the structure within the school environment is such that the kids can connect with their classroom from anywhere. So we're going to have connected classrooms. They can connect to their classroom from anywhere. That is happening today in Nigeria. So would that be a norm in Africa by 2030? Yes, very true. That's going to be a norm. It's going to become possible for kids to be able to learn from anywhere because technology is going to be deepened. AI is going to make that very possible. So kids are going to be able to learn from anywhere, anytime, and any day. And so we're going to have the homework classwork paradigm, because there's this mental distortion of African kids. And I use that word in quote because when we say homework, they believe that when they get home, homework is the work I do at home.
Yeah.
And classwork is the work I do in the class. And so conventionally, an average African child has no passion for learning when they are not in the school environment.
Wow.
Because the school is what drives their learning. They don't really want to learn, because actually every time learning happens is because somebody called the teacher stands before a group of students and then drives it. So it's teacher driven and not student driven, right? And when these kids get home, the only thing they do is do homework and then they're back again. So that traditional saga, that's a big problem, right? So what would I want to have is just assessment that can be taken anywhere, right? So if you finish a particular learning area over the night and the morning, you can choose to do your assessment in the morning, do it anytime, right? So this is the lifelong learning paradigm. In the world of lifelong learning, I don't think there's anything like classwork or homework. What we can talk about is assessment. And we're taking courses from Google, this platform and the likes. We'll just talk about assessment. I think that if I start explaining all the points, I might take a lot of time. I'll just read them out. Number 2 is that as the world becomes increasingly interconnected, global citizenship will become the order as learners become so aware and leverage on platforms like LinkedIn and others for collaboration on a global level to model the fourth industrial revolution concept of a diversified and inclusive society. School will no longer become like an isolation center. Yeah. And that's another thing I see. Global citizenship research is saying that our world is going to become more and more interconnected. Right now in Lagos, you see a lot of workstations, young Nigerian guys, Gen Zs, who are working with companies across the globe who are distributed. And that's because right now, Africa's youngest population. The whole world is going to come looking for talent in Africa.
Yeah.
Right now they are doing that. They've been doing that for some years back now. Right. So they're gonna keep coming and coming. They're gonna keep coming looking for. So we're gonna have this globalization. Technology is going to keep deepening that effect. It's going to keep bringing the whole world closer and closer. We're talking about globalization. It's going to keep improving. So what will happen is that even for like last year, I was able to connect 3 schools in Nigeria with 3 schools from India. Now they are doing stuff together. They're learning together in the same space. They are sending gifts. They're having a nice time. We're just trying to model what the future will look like. That's what the future is going to look like.
Yeah.
That's what's going to look like. We're going to have that. Number 3, teachers will have a new identity. Yeah. They are going to become learning designers and facilitators indeed. They will no longer be required to teach because AI will take care of that. They will step into the creative age as they now have more time to think beyond preparing kids for tests and exams. They will begin to see clearly what the society is asking for and prepare learners for that. That's going to happen. Number 4 is that
in terms of number 3,
okay,
and many teachers are concerned, at least in the diaspora, about the danger of AI. Not only about taking their jobs away, but at the same time, according to them, some teachers, that it will make students lazy and all that. But you said because of AI, it will lessen the job or what the teachers do, but it will literally help teachers. The role of teachers, the best practices is to be facilitators, right? So what you're saying is it will enable the teachers to be more of a great designer of lessons and being able to facilitate instructions and learning.
Yeah.
So can you elaborate more on that? Because this is of interest. I'm a teacher.
Yeah, exactly. What we see happening today is that, so I said, teachers are going to step into their creative age. They are going to become more creative than ever.
Wow.
Because they are going to be delivered from the old of the demands from the traditional system. Right? Teachers are busy with lesson plans. They have to do so many things and a whole lot of that. But we're going to see that, for example, right now, we have AI tools that you just keep Curipod, you just give Curipod a prompt and say
Yeah.
you want this topic in this class. And all you see immediately within a minute is just a full-blown lesson,
Yeah.
right? And not just in terms of value, right? So you see what's in it, how rich and how valuable that can be, right? So teachers are going to become the teaching profession is going to become more interesting. It's going to become most interesting, right?
Yeah.
And teaching
Yeah.
is AI will get teaching to that level,
Yeah.
and all in all, so that teachers can have more time to think beyond the classroom, the school environment, right? Teachers can have more time to collaborate. But one thing I'm saying lately, one thing I've just part of my latest discoveries is the fact that school needs to move to what I call the partnership age. So right now, teachers need to start collaborating with professionals from other industries.
Yeah.
Well, the school of the future is going to become an environment that brings professionals back into the classroom. Right? We say school produces professionals, but right now, school is going to bring them back into the classroom because they
And
have
to
to.
be honest, with you, AI, because AI has access to a lot of data, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
actually, it is if the interest is to make things, is to encourage collaboration, and
mhm,
to also not only between teachers, but between
mm,
teachers and the industry, right? I think AI can facilitate that. The use of AI can facilitate that. If the whole idea is using data, right? The use of AI to inform a decision making or instruction,
mm,
I can do a marvelous job in regards to the use of technology, which goes to moving schools to using technology to become technology savvy, right?
yeah.
So it creates. You said that it creates an emergence of global schools as
Yeah,
learners. Can
yeah.
you elaborate?
Yeah, so talking about global schools, so what we're saying is that right now it's going to become easy. For example, I work with a school in Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, as an instructor, and yeah, so I teach math there,
Okay.
right? Yes, of course, that's a school with learners distributed. That's a global school. So again, when we talk about global schools, what we're seeing, what we're seeing right now, which is a possibility, is very possible.
Yeah.
Like I was speaking to a school owner, I
Mhm.
said, all your teachers, you are in Nigeria. I said, all your teachers don't have to be Nigerians. I said, when we talk about global citizenship, when we say every child in Nigeria is a global citizen, every one of us we are global citizen, the whole world right now is a global village, right? Global citizenship is not a title. It has to be an experience. It has to be, so I like calling myself a global village evangelist. Just was actually talking about the global village.
Yeah.
Let's plug into what is a global village. And that's a reality. That's
Mhm.
a reality because even right now, it's very possible. So schools in Nigeria can get volunteer teachers free of charge that are going to work with their kids, either for personalized learning interventions or just even as a member of their team, maybe to support teachers in some regards. There are many teachers, 1,001 teachers who are happy and who are
Mhm.
willing to work in that kind of setting, right?
Absolutely.
Because they also want to increase their portfolio and say, oh, I've been able to work with kids from,
Absolutely.
right? So globalization is something that people are loving these days. That's what's happening on LinkedIn. What drove all of us to, what makes us excited about LinkedIn is globalization. We're loving it. We're enjoying it. We're able
Absolutely.
to reach people, the diversification, equity, or DEI rather, DEI, the DEI
Yeah.
effect. We want to feel the world. The world is a global village. We are connected. We don't want to be separated. We want to see ourselves as one, right? So we see that happening. We see these factors as promoters, as drivers, right, of concepts like the global school, right? So we're going to see more and more things like that. So, for example, I know about 3 years ago, I was able to discover a platform that was offering free homework assistant. So I introduced that to a school owner. And so what happened was that she's in Nigeria. So one of our students got on the platform and was able to connect with an Indian. And
Hmm.
then they had a class together.
Yeah.
And then she so much enjoyed the class. She was like, wow,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
So these are realities,
Yeah.
buttressing the fact that the world is a global village.
Yeah.
Every child is a global citizen. Every school can be a global school. And these are experiences that are real and that our kids should have. Sometimes you just want to go on LinkedIn and get
Yeah.
a teacher and bring that person into your classroom and allow that person teach your kids for that day. So the reason for that is because by design, there's an experience or a skill called global citizenship that
Absolutely.
every child needs to have in your classroom. And
Absolutely.
if they're going to have that skill, they need to experience, there's a learning experience that's going to produce that skill,
Mhm.
which is something like exposing them, with bringing them in contact with professionals from other industries in other countries or educators from other countries, and doing that from time to time.
Mm. And you're absolutely correct, especially past pandemic, the pandemic, COVID-19. It has really facilitate that transition of the technology of global citizenship. And
Yeah.
utilizing technology, you're absolutely correct. Yeah. Please continue.
Yeah. So number
And
4
then
is
number
that
5, you said radical shift from traditional to authentic learning
mm,
with evidence, such
mm,
as products, which this is one of my best, right? Product, services, discovery, and solution, right?
yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So we're going to see a lot of that. I interviewed some kids from Botswana, I think last
Mhm.
2 years or about. And so these kids they worked on a project,
Mm.
and there was a community around them. And this community was fed with water from a cliff. And this water was actually acidified. It wasn't good for the community. And so these kids went out and they were going to solve that problem.
Hmm.
We're going to solve that problem. Think that, just like I cited the instance of the school in Lagos here, who went into their community, did flyers, and wanted people to come and get some health benefits and understand some things about diabetes, how to stay healthy, and get some professional consultation and the likes. That made that happen. So we are going to see more authentic learning outcomes like this, because
Okay.
I'm very passionate about this. I believe that the only way that we can see transformation in our society
Yes.
is when learning is designed, is when we have an education system that is powerful enough to affect our immediate society.
Hmm.
Because when a child goes to a setting called a school for 12 years, and after 12 years, that child cannot add any value to the society, it's
Yes.
problematic. From a product perspective, if I am given 12 years to build a product,
Hmm.
and after building the product, I come out to the market and nobody is willing to die for that. Nobody is saying, hey, I've got to have this thing badly. I'm going to pay for it. This thing has real value that is so good. It's going to be a serious problem, right? Given the space of 12 years. So we see right now that if we're thinking about transformational education, then we have to review the end in mind. We have to review the outcomes. The reason for what I've said before now is because the outcomes have not been authentic. They've been so artificial and not valuable to the society.
Wow.
So look at it. Look at the examples I just gave of of kids going to their community. Now, if these kids become politicians in the future, right from their young age, you have given them a training that helps them to see how to impact their society. That's the kind of education we want to have.
Hmm.
The kind of education that turns their community to their classroom, right? So their classroom is their community. They always
Yeah.
want to go to the community and do something. They keep their eyes on the community often. Not the kind of education that is so traditional that disconnects them from their community, right?
Hmm.
So everything they learn for 12 years has nothing to do with their community, because all they were busy with were just exams by and large. So we see that big problem right there. And so we are seeing this shift right now. And because there's going to be more and more evidence, right? There's going to be more and more evidence. I see a lot of competitions right now globally where they are asking kids to come and submit products, to come and submit services and things that they've come up with. I see a lot of that. So that is happening today. That tells me that by 2030, there's going to be a big increase on that. There's going to be more and more competitions like that, where kids across the globe are going to start coming to the fore to share their project,
Yeah.
to share the solutions that they have. And now they are willing to affect their society. So summarily, what is going to happen is that we're going to see kids becoming more and more entrepreneurial. We're going to see more and more of that right from K to 12.
Excellent. Excellent. One of the questions that I wanted to ask you deals with your vision of a radical shift from traditional to authentic learning with tangible products and services discovery and solution. I wanted to ask, how will this transform the role of exams and grades? And how will it
Mm.
impact your position of in-demand skills and competency? I believe that you articulated that beautifully. You've cited some good examples on how you have seen it being demonstrated. I know we're running a little out of time. Your accomplishments, your experience, what you're doing excites me so much. So I overplanned. I have a lot of questions. We have to do another episode. I wanted to talk to you about the course that you have designed for teachers and educators.
Mm,
I also wanted to talk to you regarding the role of AI in education. Um, Tell us a little bit about the course that you have designed and
yeah,
what topics do you cover?
yeah, sure, sure. Thank you, Dr. Ayo. As I think about how learning is going to become more and more interesting,
Yeah.
more fun, even in K to 12, we see a place of micro learning coming into
Mm,
the equation.
okay.
We see the place of micro learning coming into the equation. So if you see what the course looks like, it's designed to cut off the noise. One of the things problem we need to solve in K to 12 is that there's a lot of noise. We expose kids to too many things that are not important.
Mm,
These things can be streamlined and
mm,
presented from a micro learning perspective, such that what we are giving kids is just exactly what they need to know. Just exactly what they need to know. And that's the idea of micro learning.
okay.
People think that is it going to be effective? It's going to be effective, right? And that's why we talk about teachers becoming learning designers. Because by the time you're thinking as a learning designer, you will begin to focus on specifics,
Okay.
right? Specific things that needs to be addressed, and what you want to capture in the learning experience is just nothing but those specifics, right? In this course, it's about how to design authentic learning in K to 12. And I just decided to address the basics, right? The starting point for anybody from anywhere, wherever you are across the world. If you're thinking about offering your learners something more than just being able to pass exams, something more
Mm,
that will make their society respect them, something more that will put them in a place where they can add real value to that society, right? You want to join the class of educators that are not traditional, but that are offering kids real value, then you want to think about jumping on this course, right? I talked about the basics. And then in the course, I talked about basically how teachers can become more familiar with context
mm,
as against content. I talked about substituting content for context. Like I always say, that context should determine content when it comes to engaging learners. I always
mm,
say that. I got my inspiration from the story of what's happening in Dubai. I mentioned it in the course too. How Dubai wants to go and live in Mars by year 2117. That's like next 90 something years. So they launched the project 2017. It was an 100 years project. So they traveled to Mars, and what they went to do was to study everything about Mars, right? And so when they were done with that, they came back to the Earth and then built a colony, built something that looks like Mars. And there's right now, that thing is in Dubai, right? They built it, the whole atmosphere in terms of pressure, temperature, and everything in Mars. They came to replicate, they built like a simulation of that on the Earth, right? So they are saying that they are going to live in that thing. And if they can live in it and survive in it between 2017 and 2117, then that means they are now ripe to
mm.
move to Mars, to
Wow.
build, to go and start living in Mars. And the lesson I learned from that is that we need the atmosphere of a reality to prepare for that reality.
Mm,
That's the lesson I learned from that. So Dubai looked into the future, created the future in the present to prepare for the future.
mm,
So that tells me, that tells schools, that tells K-12, that tells every education, that you cannot be effective if you don't understand what is coming. If
mm,
you don't understand what the reward is asking for, you cannot be effective in a classroom because you only keep offering what is not needed.
mm,
So there's a need for educators to understand the context,
mm,
what is obtainable. For example, I always say that vocabularies are seasonal.
mm,
It- there was nothing like ChatGPT in the year 2010.
mm,
Nothing like that.
mm.
Nothing like that.
Yeah.
So if we want to stick with what our syllabus and the scheme of work says, and we want to just keep following it head on and on, what will happen is that
No
we'll keep,
innovation.
yeah. So we'll just keep disconnecting, disconnecting our learners from the reality
Mm,
and what real life is saying by the hour, right? And that's really going to be quite problematic.
yeah.
That's going to be quite problematic. So in the course, I I opened up educators to being able to get more familiar with context and how to begin to use context to influence how they design their learning experiences. I spelled out some very simple steps, right? Practically that educators can adopt to help them move and just keep gravitating, right? To that. So it's just that course is just like a starting point for every educator that wants to move
Right.
into the world of authentic learning. Yeah.
Okay. That is good, because what I was thinking of when you say context and content, I was thinking in terms of the student's experience within their
Mm,
environment. So
mm.
for a
Yeah.
teacher,
Yeah.
in order to design a learning content, the teacher has to be able to understand the student's context in terms of
Yeah.
experience and use
Mm,
that, right, to develop the learning so that their learning is authentic. But again,
mm.
you want us to expand a little bit, right? You want us to think
Yeah.
in terms of looking at things more, projecting more
Mm.
into what life would be like in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
future, and
Yeah.
use that as a way. And it requires a little bit of imagination and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
creativity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
and that leads me to my next question. Probably this will be one of our last, and then we can pick up. We can do another episode. AI, it's really, especially ChatGPT, has
Mm,
just revolutionized everything. I think
mm.
we're living in another age. We're living in the age of
Yeah.
AI. That's what I feel.
Yeah.
So, how do you see the role of AI in education, particularly in terms of teachers' involvement in
Mm,
learning processes? Please.
mm. I think that AI is an answer to prayers in the sense that,
Okay.
yeah, like recently I have built two chatbots and by the way, it wasn't really I talked about Eazy-Digi. We always want to make it easy, right?
Yes.
So in my research, I'm busy looking for what can be the easiest way for people to get on this thing, right?
Mhm.
So I've been able to easily build two chatbots, and that what I discovered was that AI has the potential to deepen personalization, right, across schools, right? So what it means is that for me as a student in a classroom, right, I can have a chatbot that I can ask any question anytime. So if I need help with anything, I can ask a chatbot that I can get questions from. Oh, I could you help me with this and all of that? And I
Yeah.
get, but this time around, they are going to be customized chatbots, not the
Mhm.
general or ChatGPT, and there is more generalized. So K to 12, we need to embrace AI and the chatbot era in a more customized manner. So schools are going to have chatbots internally that they are using to drive personalization for their students.
Yeah.
So these chatbots are going to be trained on their content, right?
Mhm.
On the content that are peculiar to what they're offering their students in their schools. Right? So that's going to be possible. But the traditional teachers are going to have a problem with this
Mhm.
because the traditional teacher is the teacher that when it comes to assessment, the questions they ask are the questions that students can get from Google, can get
Mhm.
from ChatGPT by just asking it. So I don't think it's about ChatGPT, right? So before ChatGPT came, we've had Google that we can type and we can get answers to questions.
Yeah.
That has been, right? So I don't think this is a ChatGPT thing. I think this is about teachers who don't want to move away from the traditional,
Mhm.
right? Because right now, what AI can do for us, AI can help us to move from lower order thinking to higher order thinking.
Mhm.
And here's what I mean. Here's what I mean. Instead of feeding students with knowledge and asking them to pour it back to us like a chatbot, right? So what we're going to have is that we're going to have a different kind of engagement,
Mhm.
which is going to be a high level, right? So imagine asking students to use ChatGPT to write out five prompts, or let's say two or three prompts to generate different response from ChatGPT, and then analyze these three prompts, right, to now build an original content for themselves. Like, look at that kind of thing. Look at that kind of thing, right? That's a high level task. That's a high level task. And that kind of engagement is now in the equation because we have AI in the equation, because AI is involved, right? So AI is going to help us push to the level of higher order thinking, right? If we're looking at the Bloom's taxonomy, where students are now evaluating, where they are now analyzing and where they are creating. I think that getting to that creating zone is very important.
Hmm.
It's very important. Traditionally, it doesn't go beyond the first three categories, beyond remembering, understanding and remembering facts and pouring down and just applying it in artificial, what I call simple problems, solving on paper problems and those things are not real problems. But what we're going to do is that AI can help us push our learners to the realm of real problems where they are engaging in that kind of manner, right? So students are going to have to learn prompting, right? Of course, that's another conversation. The issue of addressing curriculums and those things, right? So students are going to they will start hearing words like prompt, prompting, tuning, fine tuning. It's going to become part of the conversation, right? Because that's going to be an AI classroom, right? That's going to be a tech classroom, right? So we're going to be having that kind of high level conversation with students, right? So our students are coming to the classroom to say, "Hi, sir. So the first prompt I entered gave me this response. All right. I got about 5 paragraphs, and after analyzing the first, the second, and the third, looking at the video, these are my prompts." So imagine students giving that kind of response. And this is about something in biology, or this is about something in chemistry. Or maybe I have asked them to go and investigate something that happened in a particular industry in China or in a particular industry in Taiwan with a particular chemical that we're talking about in the classroom. So AI can help us move away from high and lower order thinking to the realm where these students are able to unleash the potential, because I believe every child is created by God to carry potentials. But most of the time, it's their education system that fails them, doesn't help them to unleash the potentials inside of them. Right. So that's the kind of thing that we see. So when I think about AI and what AI is going to do, that is what I see AI doing for us, right? Beyond it's going to deepen personalization. It's going to help us move to the realm of higher order thinking. It's going to help teachers with their mental health and being, because they're going to start worrying less about things, because many of the things they worry about can be easily accessible, can be easily gotten.
Excellent, excellent. But again, that also brings up another point. The teachers are also concerned that the AI could lead to cheating in terms of student cheating, not doing the
Mm,
work, being lazy, and all
mm,
that.
mm,
What is your
mm.
perspective on this concern?
Yeah, so I think that the word cheating can only be used in the context of the traditional. For example, if I think about how professionals are using AI today, right? For example, how I am using AI today, right? I wanted to write a proposal, and then I just entered the prompt. I told this AI to the kind of proposal I want, and so I just entered it, and within a second, it gave me a set of slides, right? It gave me a set of slides. That would have taken me a lot of hours to put that presentation together. But just because I just entered the right prompt, in less than a minute, I was able to get the slides that I will use for a presentation. And the content was beautiful and so great. I only needed to just add few things. All right. So that eased my life. Right. You won't say I'm cheating for doing that. I wasn't cheating.
Hmm.
I wasn't teaching. This is about my productivity being increased. This is
Right.
about my mental health and well-being. This is about allowing me to focus on high level. So I think that right now, what AI has done to us is that AI has redefined high level and low level tasks.
Hmm.
There were some things that before its emergence, right, especially generative AI, some things we saw as high level. Right now, they are now low level.
Hmm.
Now there's a new caliber of tasks that we call high level now. So AI has brought about that shift. So I think that cheating will not be in the equation
Hmm.
if we are looking at higher order thinking. Cheating will not be in the equation, because and if the learning experience is skill based, like I always say that there can be exam malpractice, or there can be skills malpractice, right? Because skills have to be shown. You have to show it. Critical thinking cannot be copied.
Yeah.
You have to show it. You have to show it. Collaboration cannot be copied. You have to
Yeah.
show it.
Yeah.
Innovation cannot be copied. You have to show it.
Yeah.
Which is why we're saying that if the experience is still traditional, we'll still keep talking about cheating. But the moment we move away from the traditional, we won't see cheating again, because we'll now be dealing with skills.
Yeah.
We'll be dealing with skills.
Yeah.
We'll be dealing with competencies.
Yeah.
That's what we'll be dealing with. And the question will now be about how to measure those things.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if it's about the rote memorization and point of information, cheating have always been before ChatGPT and those stuff came. Google will give us answers on all of those things. So we have that. We
It's
really have
true.
that.
It's true. Hmm. profound. Everything that you have said
Thank you.
is really profound. As we conclude, what is your final thoughts and recommendation for teachers, educators, and professionals who are navigating the intersection of AI, STEM education, and most especially your passion, authentic learning in K
Yeah.
through 12?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'll say that speed is a strategy and you want to move fast. Speed in networking, very important. I think that networking is one of the things that has changed my life. And
Mm,
I'm going to talk about it big time. It's golden. You are only as disruptive, as innovative as your network. You want to put
profound.
yourself in that environment where you are seeing what is possible. The more you see what is possible, the more you are inspired to do what is
Mm,
possible. I
mm,
think that is one thing that I have done to myself over the years. I have put myself in a place where I am seeing what is possible often.
yeah,
And so the more I see what is possible, the more I want to do what is possible.
yeah,
So I think that's very important. There's going to be so many sides to these things, but I think that networking is going to play a critical role and
yeah.
you've got to move very fast. Speed is a strategy. You have to move very fast. That's very crucial. Yeah, I think that would be my last words. Then let's connect. Let's connect. I'm on LinkedIn. Let's connect. Networking is very crucial, and you want to be very active on platforms like LinkedIn is very crucial.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. So,
Pleasure.
ladies and gentlemen, we have been really fortunate to have on this podcast Adebayo, Mr. Adebayo. He's from Nigeria. So, if people want to reach out to you, well, how will they go about reaching out to you?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you for having me on this podcast. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for the interest. I'm so grateful. So yeah, basically I'm on LinkedIn. That's where for me, that's where the world is. I feel like if you're not on LinkedIn, you're not alive. That's what I feel like. So if you come to LinkedIn, just look for Adebayo Alomaja, right? I guess I'm the only Adebayo Alomaja there. If you find, of course, you'll be able to recognize my face. Anyways, of course, right there we can connect. And then
I love your
other
profile, by the
things
way. I love your profile on LinkedIn. That's a beautiful profile.
thank
Yeah,
thank
please
you, Dr.
continue.
Ayo. Yeah, of course. Yeah, so we can catch up on LinkedIn. Or if you just want something real quick, you can do bio.link/Adebayo Alomaja. If you hit that on your browser, it just takes you to my bio and some other things about me right there. bio.link/Adebayo Alomaja. Or just find me on LinkedIn. So let's connect.
Excellent, excellent. Again, thank you so much, Mr. Adebayo. Jack. I appreciate your presence. He
Thank
is
you.
the head of research and chief learning designer at Eazy-Digi, uh, K through 12 digital transformation and hybrid learning consultant. So STEAM is important and vital to our community because our community's health, economy, agriculture, resources, waste and sanitation and technology are vital and are key to sustainability. And they all fall in the top 10 areas of innovation across all of our industry. In Touch, Think, STEAM, Career Podcast explore the evolving world of science, technology, arts, and mathematics, and how those career pathways intersect and bring into focus the underrepresentation of Blacks, Indigenous peoples of color, and women in STEM collegial programs and career in our society. As STEAM field continue to evolve, this podcast will continue to connect with men and women who are champions of STEAM education and have experience in STEAM career to allow viewers to engage with the content to gain insight into how the BIPOC community can be part of the STEAM innovation. It is my hope that conversation like this will bring awareness to the importance of STEAM education and career and be a source of empowerment to potentially positioning our people in our community to all the innovation taking place and to also help to increase the BIPOC representation in this field to spark new research and innovation. I want to thank you again, Mr. Adebayo Alomaja, for gracing us
Yeah.
on In Touch Think STEAM Careers podcast. And now to our audience, if you like the content we are providing, please support this program. We are on YouTube. We are also on LinkedIn. We're on Buzzsprout. We're on Spotify. We're on Amazon. Please support us so that we can continue to bring you contents and programs like this. We'd like to thank you all for taking the time to watch our discussion on the innovation taking place in our community. Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.